Paul says in Romans chapter 5, verse 3-4, that he glories in his tribulations, because tribulation produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Growing up, I pinballed quite harshly between a mix of Catholic foster parents that I called Janice and Gary, a live-in rehabilitation centre called Odyssey House in Victoria, and an often inebriated mum in the government housing projects of Melbourne. The effects of which were made immediately apparent when I failed the very first grade of primary school. Check that out, 5 years old, and my first taste of organised education, I failed. Like, how do you fail the first grade? And what foreshadowing, as I would go on to fail every major aspect of my education moving forward, from primary school, high school, and even university. Because still struggling with the ongoing trauma and mayhem of a toxic home environment, my life became one that was characterized around failure, including academically. But the turning point in my life came in my early 20s, where I found God and I converted to Christianity. And after one too many knocks, including a brief stint with homelessness, I decided to hand the reins over to God. And through hard work, patience, and perseverance, including the born-again experience, God had placed the right people in my life to awaken the potential in me that I never even knew existed. For most people, getting a college degree is a walk in the park, but for me, it was one of the most difficult times of my entire life. I remember years ago talking to a few of my friends saying things like this, that when I finally get to the end of the line, I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. When I finally hold that certificate in my hand, I'm gonna break down in tears. Because for me, getting something like a college degree was something that I never thought was possible. Not with who I was, not with my background, not with my reputation, and not with my history. And I wasn't the only one that could see that. I had so many people in the opposite side of the corner aligning themselves against me. Highly esteemed men, revered men, people that even I looked up to, top of the ladder of the food chain in my organization, people that used to look at me as the bottom of the rung, the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the food chain, sitting me down saying things like, Nathan, I don't like you. You're not worthy of the call to ministry. Lecturers telling me that it was a mistake that I chose the ministry. I even had people telling me that I would never get to the end of the line of the course. So many people looking across and judging me because of where I came from, or judging me because of my experience, holding these big red stop signs against me that read no. And you know what? They were almost right. Because about halfway through my double degree, I became homeless again for the second time in 10 years, right smack dab in the middle of my double degree. And it almost felt like it was a confirmation of all the criticisms that these people had against me. Maybe all of these things that these people are saying about you are right. Maybe all the things that people are saying about you is true. Maybe you're the one that's in denial, and maybe you're deluded, Nathan. Who are you, Nathan, to think that you could ever graduate from this program? Not with all of these obstacles, not with all of these stop signs, and not with all of these adversities. They said, Nathan, you're not called. Nathan, you're not good enough. Nathan, you're not worthy. And Nathan, you're not going to get to the end of this. And I got to thinking that maybe that was true. I got to thinking that maybe they were right. And I got to thinking, Nathan, why don't you just cut your losses? Why don't you just walk away? Because maybe, Nathan, you're just not cut out for this. And so I almost did listen to them. I went up north to stay with my best friend. I slept on his couch for 2 months. I tried to piece my life back together again and go back to the drawing board. I felt like I had to start everything again from scratch, because I felt like for once more, I had failed. And there I was in Beijing, China for the next 3 years trying to fix my life, trying to start again from scratch. I'd prayed prayers that I'd never prayed before. I sought after God like I'd never sought Him before. And I chased after Jesus like I'd never pursued Him before. I remember one day in my room in this small stuffy apartment in the middle of Beijing, China, I literally looked up at the wall. Tears came out of my eyes and I said, Jesus, I'm going to give all of this to you, Jesus, and all I ask that you do is make something of me. I said, Lord, everything that I've tried to do fails. Every pursuit, every goal, every option, every decision that I try to get to the end of, I can never complete it. I said, Jesus, I'm always failing. And so, Lord, I give this to you right now, and I ask you, God, to please make something of me. Get me to the end of that line and help me to go back to Australia with something to show. And so for the next 3 years, I scratched and clawed trying to piece my life back together again, bit by bit, starting from scratch and trying to rehabilitate, trying to get myself somewhere with the help of Christ on my side. And that's when I made the decision to re-enroll myself back into the program, into the double degree of Ministry and Theology. And I started knocking over those units one by one. All the classes that I'd failed, all the classes that I had to put on hold, half of the degree remaining, I started to knock them over one by one until I finally saw the end of the line approaching. I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel, because what should have taken 4 years to complete a double degree had taken me almost 8 years. I started the course in March of 2013. But it's only been here, right now, in this year, this month, literally 2 weeks ago, 2020, December 14th, I finally graduated my double degree. It took me 8 long years to get it done. But this year, this month, I finally graduated from Avondale Seminary, a double degree holder in Ministry and Theology. And I still look back at some of those people that said, Nathan, you'll never do it. I still look back at some of those people that put up those obstacles that made it impossible for me to climb over. I still look back and remember the time that one of the head lecturers sat down and said that I wasn't called for it. And I still look back and remember some of those people saying, Nathan, I just don't like you. I look back and I remember them saying, Nathan, you're not worthy. Nathan, you're not called. And Nathan, you'll never achieve it. But you know what? I did achieve it. And I did it despite my enemy, because I had an advocate. I had Jesus Christ in my corner. And I want to tell you this right now. Some of you are going through some major obstacles in your life. I don't know what they are. Maybe they're financial obstacles. Maybe they're relational obstacles. Maybe they're obstacles in your career. It could be a spiritual obstacle. You might have so many people in your life warring against you. Paul said in Romans 5, verse 3-4, that he glories in his tribulations, because tribulation leads to perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Because you know what? There were times that I wanted to quit. There were times that I wanted to throw in the towel. And there were times that I wanted to listen to my enemies. I wanted to say with them that, Nathan, you're not enough. I wanted to say with them that, Nathan, you're not called. And I wanted to say with them that, Nathan, you can't do it. But in the end of the day, I didn't only have enemies at the opposite side of the corner, but in my own corner, in my very own life, I had an advocate. And his name was Jesus Christ. And I want to tell you right now that it doesn't matter how many people are aligning themselves against you, that as long as you have an advocate in your corner, as long as that advocate is Jesus, then you can get through any barrier. You can get through any stop sign. You can turn any red sign into a green sign. That when people put limits on you and they say stop, when they say no, Jesus is the one that helps you to break those limits and turn those red signs into green signs. He turns stops into go, and he turns yes from no. That Jesus makes all things impossible and improbable, probable and possible. And you know what? I'm glad of the tribulation that I faced. I'm glad of the struggles that I went through. I'm glad of the obstacles, and I'm glad of the barriers. I'm glad that I ran out of money. I'm glad that I became homeless, and I'm glad that I had to go exile in Beijing, China. Because for me, getting this degree is just more sweeter with all the obstacles than to get it with a clear path. And I want to tell you, really get motivated. Whatever your goal is, whatever your impossible is, and whatever your improbable is, that with the help of Jesus, he makes all those things probable and possible. He makes them realistic, and he makes them, once you get it at the end, that little bit sweeter. So I want you, just like Paul, to glory in your tribulations. Develop that perseverance. develop that character, and rest and rely on your hope. If God was able to turn a dropkick like me, coming from where I came from, with my background and with my history, with my experience and with my reputation, to be able to escape homelessness, not once, not twice, but to even get a double bachelor's degree done through that time, then I want to tell you God can do anything in your life. And remember what Paul says, to glory in your tribulation, because through tribulation comes perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Okay, until next time, it's Nathan Asher. May God bless you and may God rest you. I'll see you next time.